Hi there. My name is Nate Seaskin, and I am a program associate at the Shared Use Mobility Center. And today we have the great opportunity to hear from Karina, who at the City of Pittsburgh, who has been doing a lot of exciting work implementing the Move PGH program, uh, which is a MOS-like type of project or mobility as a service-like project in Pittsburgh. So, Karina, would you like to take a quick moment to introduce yourself and to describe what Move PGH is like?
Sure. I'm Karina Ricks. I'm the director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure for the City of Pittsburgh. Move PGH is, we do like to describe it as a MOS type service. So what we've done is created some sort of trusted partnerships with different mobility providers. It's all anchored around our public transit system that's provided by the Port Authority of Allegheny County. Here it is a county service. And then we've brought to augment and to extend the reach of that transit service a number of other mobility providers, both micromobility as well as car share and actually carpool, and integrating that all into what we call both virtual and physical mobility hubs so that users can easily find these services both in the physical world, going to one of 50 designated locations where they can reliably find these services. It's not that these are the only places where those services are located, but that they can reliably find these services at one of those 50 mobility hubs. And then in partnership with the transit app, putting all of the services together into one mobile application so that they don't need to navigate 6 or 8 different independent service provider platforms in order to use these. What that also sort of sets us up to do is in the future, we're not ready for it now, but in the future, really looking forward to where we might be able to actually see not only ride integration, but fare integration across modes and services.
Great. So, what would you say was the impetus or inspiration for this project?
Um, it was several fold, but one was I came from Washington D.C. To Pittsburgh. Washington D.C. of course has a robust array of different mobility services available to it, but you really have to be a pretty savvy consumer in order to use them. You have to know, have enough memory on your phone to have a dozen different applications there. You need to be confident enough in setting up profiles across all of these different things. You need to, be technologically savvy to flip back and forth between the different applications to know which user is which. So it's not, it really puts a lot of the onus on the user. It's not all that user friendly to it. And you have to have a certain level of sort of mobility literacy to really avail yourselves of those mobility options, which we know tends to skew toward the more affluent travelers anyway, those who have fewer mobility challenges. It also stems from, several years ago, I was doing consulting work and doing some work in actually Columbus, Ohio. As we're doing transportation planning, I met this gentleman at a bus stop out on the outer reaches of that system, and he rode up on his bicycle. And just chatting with him, we talked about sort of the level of mobility insecurity that he faces. That if, usually he would ride his bike to the bus stop, he'd hit his bike on the bus, take it downtown, and then ride the last couple of miles to his landscaping job that's on the other side of town. But if the two bike racks were full on that bus, it introduced a whole world of hurt to him that, he either had to wait for the next bus and hope there'd be an open bike available there, or he had to wait downtown for a transfer to another bus. And he said in either event, he's 20, 30 minutes late to work, and doesn't happen often, but it happens often enough that his boss is telling him, look, I really like you, but I can't give you a raise. I can't give you, a better job because of these tardies, because of this unreliability. And so, really thinking about that of like, this mobility insecurity is a real economic hindrance to people progressing in their jobs. And so we need to be able to make it easy for people to quickly adapt. If plan A falls through, if both of those bike racks are full on that bus, that he's got plan B and C easily available to him readily, that he knows how to use it, that it isn't going to introduce a big cost burden, to him to do that he can still get to work on time so that he can, get that raise, he can get that better position, he can get that better job and climb up through the economic ladder. So that's the other thing that we're trying to do, is really make it easy and intuitive for people to have plan B, plan C, plan D. And again, we're also launching this sort of, guaranteed basic mobility pilot so that we can see if we take away those kind of transfer penalties, those cost penalties of using a multimodal system, and give people that resiliency of choice, are they able to get, perform well in and progress in jobs and really change their economic outlook. So that's the other, sort of impetus for this.
Thank you for that information. So it's my understanding that there's a lot of different partners in this project. There's a technology partners, there's mobility company partners. Could you just describe like what are the roles of these different partners and who are like the predominant players in this project?
Yeah, so this project is a product of the city of Pittsburgh. So the city of Pittsburgh is sort of the convener of this. 2 years ago, we didn't expect it would take us 2 years, but it did. 2 years ago, we put out a request for proposals seeking a consortium of mobility providers to kind of self-assemble. We didn't want, sort of the walled garden, single owner proposer. We wanted a number of different companies to come together, voluntarily agree to collaborate and work with us on that. And so Spin replied to that RFP and became the partner that we selected. We had 7 different proposers, but Spin was the one that was selected to be a part of that. But the project was also built around our sort of co-partners, which we called the core service providers, which was the Transit Authority and our public bike share system, which is Healthy Ride in Pittsburgh. So the core group was the City of Pittsburgh, the Port Authority of Allegheny County, and Healthy Ride, who we needed to really stay and thrive and benefit from this program. And then we brought into there a group of the different mobility providers sort of chaired by Spin, but they brought along with them Zipcar, Waze Carpool. I know I'm going to forget some. Zipcar, Waze Carpool, Swift Mile, who provides the electric charging, the Transit app, which was the uniform platform that they were going to use, and Transit Screen, which provides information at the physical mobility hubs. We also later added into that consortium Scooby, which is a homegrown moped share provider here in the city of Pittsburgh. So they also are a member now.
Mhm. So how do you hope that Move TGH will develop over time? Because it's still in its early stages, and it seems like you have this other initiative alongside this for universal mobility.
So what we really want to demonstrate is, of course, transit is vitally important, and transit will always be a cornerstone foundation of urban mobility. And there are frequent transit lines and there are infrequent transit lines in the city. Getting people to those frequent transit lines, getting people to, those final last mile connections that are maybe just beyond the reach of the frequent transit lines, that's going to make transit perform better. That's going to open up a lot more options for others. So what we really want to demonstrate is how multimodal systems, are sort of better together. It's like I refer, it's sort of like the old Reese's peanut butter cups commercial, right? Two great tastes that taste great together, right? Like that's what we're trying to demonstrate, is that these things are not in competition. What we're in competition with is a built form and a mobility system that relies on private ownership and private operation, principally a private automobile. If you really want to access all the opportunities available in a region, we want to get beyond that. That is not, that's not good for the environment. That's not good for the planet. But it's also beyond the means of a lot of people in our country. And so if we can really figure it out how we can have private provision of service, public provision of service, working together into that, we keep our eye on the end game, which is providing economic mobility for the people of our region, and figure it out how we kind of equitably and sustainably integrate these different modes. It probably means in the end that there is subsidy across a variety of different kinds of services, right? Transportation has really never been a self-sustaining, profit-making enterprise ever. Not, and we all know not automobile travel is not self-sustaining either. It's also subsidized, just not directly accounted for that way. So that's what we really hope with this, is that getting these things to work together into a single system, that we're able to unlock economic opportunity for the people of our region, and that they don't necessarily have to have a car, that is a prerequisite for economic success in our city. It's not saying that people can't own a car, that we're car haters either, but it can't be the exclusive right of entry in order to have economic success.
Yep. That's a very helpful point to demonstrate. Um, so, just a last question: going in hand with that, what challenges do you think Move PGH will have to overcome, or if there's any that it's had to overcome in its implementation?
Oh, there's a host of challenges that we have to overcome. I mean, one of the things really, and what we're really focused on, is ride coaching.
Mhm.
That this is not just because you lay out this buffet of different kinds of mobility options, doesn't mean that people are naturally going to avail themselves of it, or that they even know how to. So, peer to peer kind of ride coaching assistance, in particular for people, for whom, uh, there might be cultural differences or distrust, or concerns about using these, helping people, if you're using a bike or an e-scooter, even just how to navigate the streets to find the lower stress routes that you just feel more comfortable using those in. Or, what if the zip car is low on fuel? Like, how do I gas up a car? If I've never been a car owner, I don't even know how to access the gas tank, right? So having that ride coaching, having that phone a friend, kind of peer that's going to help you out, and building the confidence to use these, that's a really important part of this. um, it is, we know that micromobility and shared mobility is um, it's a very dynamic um, space. And so I have no doubt that over the course of, the future of this, some of these companies, they will rise and fall. Some, will change over time. We're going to try to mitigate competition between them, and try and really, again, because this is a government program, and because we ultimately hold the permit control over the ability to operate in our city, that we can, hopefully help navigate and negotiate some of those concerns. Again, noting that uh, uh, together we're better. That even though there might be individual competition occasionally between different services, that as a whole, a multimodal integrated system is better. The fare integration and getting everybody, working that out is absolutely going to be a giant challenge, to try and figure out where, how do you equitably attribute different uh, portions of the fare that is paid for that. And then having a program that is affordable for lower income users is again something. And how do you sustain that? We can do it again. We're running this guaranteed basic mobility program as a pilot, but it is time limited. And
Mm.
so, what happens at the end of that? How do we sustain the participants in this program, knowing that transportation, we all know it's the second and sometimes the first largest household cost. So if we're dramatically subsidizing that for a period of time, and then that comes to an end, what then? How do we continue to sustain these individuals who do experience mobility insecurity? What is the long-term solution to that? So that's also going to be a huge challenge. And I'm sure a number of things that I haven't even thought of. This is a pilot, and we're treating it as a pilot and a demonstration, and working it out as we go as things arise that we need to problem solve around.
Well, thank you so much, Karina. This is a really exciting program to hear about with Move PGH, and we really appreciate you taking the time to share your experiences and your what you've learned about with this program. So thank you again. We appreciate the time you took.
Yeah, thank you. It's great talking to you.